as this is very cheesy, but I think that you need to believe in yourself. So I didn't realize that this was perhaps a quality of mine until I spoke to other people and realized how, like, I had so many people that were like worried about, like, I can't do this. I'm not going to be able to do this. I'm terrible at my job, like having like imposter syndrome and stuff. And I was just like quite surprised, like, just speak to other people. I think that's another thing that I do that I didn't realize was rare. That, like, for example, in the corporate environment, like, I was speaking to the marketing team, I was asking how it worked, how they got the leads. I was speaking to the product manager because I was interested in what they were developing in the product and how it would impact how I could sell the product. But I found that, like, a lot of people were not really interested.
Hey everyone, welcome to the NoName Podcast. I hope you're liking the videos that we are creating and the people that we are meeting. Today again we have a very special guest with us. Her name is Abbie Poots. She's joining us from Turkey, and she's from Netherlands, but kind of staying in Turkey these days for her work. And she's an avid content writer again. And I'm excited to talk to her regarding her journey as a content writer and what she has learned so far. Uh, I hope that you like the conversation, and if you like it, please do subscribe. Or if you're listening it on different channels, please do subscribe to all those podcast channels as well. So, having said that, let's get Abbie in. Hey, Abbie, how are you?
Hello, I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good too. Thank you so much for your time, by the way. I wanted to talk to you. Even I am excited to know your journey and a lot of things. So, thanks so much for your time for the podcast. So, having said that, let's start with your journey, Abbie. How was the journey so far for you? Because I know that you started as a restaurant manager, and then from there on, you kind of went into different sectors, to different spheres, and now you are working as a content marketer and a content strategist in various companies. So, tell us how the journey started and why content writing at the first place.
Sure. So, yes, my journey is probably or definitely a little less regular than other people, perhaps. Often people are a bit confused because, yeah, you're right. I started out as a restaurant manager. I was working in a five-star hotel when I was still in school, and I really enjoyed catering and hospitality. And I enjoyed it, I think, because it was busy and there were also like all different aspects to it. So already then I was like already interested in sales and marketing because that was also part of what I did. It was like planning events, advertising for events, managing social media, as well as like running all the operations for everything. So I always also had like an entrepreneurial spirit behind, like I always imagined that I would run my own business.
Right.
So yeah, so it's kind of not a surprise perhaps where I am now. Um, and then, yeah, interestingly, so I worked in a few restaurants. I moved to London. I also worked in Northern Ireland and also in Scotland. And then I decided to go to university and study international agriculture. So,
Nice.
yeah, so that is, yeah, I don't know. I think so yeah, I didn't go to university straight after school because I didn't know like what I wanted to do. I actually loved catering and hospitality, and it was my dream to like run my own restaurant. But then I think while I was in the process, like in my free time, I was reading a lot of books, I was learning, and I thought, you know what, if I do want to run my own place,
Right.
I would have to have like enough like money, and
Mm.
maybe I can get like a better, more interesting job, and run my own restaurant in the future. So
Right.
yeah, so then I went to university alongside while I was working, and once I finished my degree, I actually had originally planned to do a master's, but then it was quite expensive. I wanted to study agricultural economics. So yeah, totally different from what I do now. But yeah, so then, yeah, the master's is quite expensive. And while I was kind of thinking about what to do, I started working at a job in the sales department. So that's where I started. It was business to business sales. We were selling, let's say, human resources intelligence. It was all information about employment law.
Right.
Um, and yeah, I mean, I think I did pretty well in that job, and I really enjoyed it as well. I think because I was quite competitive, and I enjoyed like every time where I was like closing a deal. But then, I also just enjoyed learning more about the product and understanding how it was marketed as well. I think I was like the only person in the sales team that actually spoke to the marketing department, because like normally like everyone hated each other. So yeah. And then so I worked there for a couple of years. And then after that, that was in London. Then I was offered a job with a Dutch international company who were wanting to expand to the UK. And yeah, so I joined there. I thought, yeah, it's a bit risky, but it's like a good opportunity. Why not? Then, yeah, I won't go into the details. It was like a technical product to do with payments. And actually, to get started in the UK, it was a completely different like banking system. So yeah, it wasn't really going to work. So I went to Amsterdam anyway, then to support the company with sales and marketing in the Netherlands and in Germany and in Belgium. So that's how I ended up there. And that was, I guess, like my first foray perhaps into like kind of like like modern day marketing. So yeah, so there I had quite a like cross functional, cross department role. So I was supporting the sales team, but I also was working closely then with the development team, because we were starting to do that. They had not done any like inbound marketing. So I started setting some things up, some lead magnets, but that involved like coming up with the ideas, actually working with the development team to build them, to put them on the website, and then technically to manage the flow of everything into the CRM system, so that like the sales team would be alerted to them. And then, yeah, I also started learning SQL while I was there, and like built kind of like dashboards for the sales team so that they could, like, we could see how many leads we're getting, how many phone calls we're making, what their conversion rates are, and also doing some extra research into like customer usage of the product. So like a little bit of product analytics as well. So yeah, so I did like, I guess it suited me because I love to learn. And I had gone from working in a corporate environment for 2 years to then the complete opposite, working in a startup.
Right.
So I'm quite happy that I've experienced both, because I see like the advantages of both and the drawbacks of both. But to be honest, I wouldn't say any of like either of them is like better than the other. I actually enjoyed my time in both companies. So yeah, so that's how I started in marketing, ended up in the Netherlands, and then after that, I actually was considering to become a developer.
Okay.
But while I had started like learning like JavaScript, and I already knew HTML, CMS, CSS, and I had like started a course, but then I got offered a job from another Dutch company as and I don't really like the term, but like as a growth hacker. So they were looking for someone who, I mean, I guess I would say technical marketer. So you're not like focused on the creative side, but you are, able to do like performance marketing, like analyze the data, but then also work closely with things like on the website for conversion rate optimization. So that was really good because they also supported me to do a course. There was an academy called Growth Tribe Academy based in Amsterdam. And yeah, it was a pretty good course because it kind of covered everything, not in too much detail, but it covered like what has been like Yeah, I guess the person who came up with growth hacking has this whole like pirate funnel, it's called, and like his kind of like methodology. But yeah, so that was great because I did that course. I was working for that company, and then I was directly able to put into practice what I was learning.
Okay.
So that was then more into like real like marketing. Um,
Right.
and yeah, so I was there for a couple of years, and then actually I started my own business just actually at the same time I was working with them. Um, I'd sort of discussed like my position and was there room to grow and what I wanted. And then I said, I actually, if I'm not going to progress here, then I'd like to work with other clients. And they were actually really supportive. So they were
Okay.
fine with that. So they were, like my first client. And then I basically started growing my business from there. That was just over 2 years ago.
Right. Right. So, I mean, this business is all about marketing, or is it like you are also kind of trying your expertise in different areas that now that you have so much of experience in different, study, different industries, different areas and whatnot?
Yeah. So I think there was really like a common theme in a lot of companies that I was speaking to. So the last company I was working for, everyone has like problems with marketing attribution. Like
Mm.
Facebook says this, Google says this,
Right. Right.
Google Analytics says something else, but then you've got like your back end, which also says something else.
Right.
And, of course, if a company is spending a lot of money on marketing, you kind of want to know, is the money you're spending, if it, are you getting a return on investment?
Yeah.
Basically, is it worth it?
Right.
And it's something that's really not an exact science due to the nature of like cookies, and people can block their cookies. So yeah, and there are like certain ways, like things that you can measure, but like you're never going to know exactly what's happening due to the nature of how it works. And it's not like getting any easier because now third party cookies are going away. So, there are things you can do like with first party cookies on your website. So when people arrive, but um, basically this was like a common theme. And then also Google Tag Manager
Mm.
is a software for installing all of your conversion tags and for basically acting like a traffic controller. So
Yeah.
it doesn't store any information, but it reads the information and then controls like where that gets sent to, so it can receive and send information. And I was also finding that, usually in the beginning, it would be developers who would be working on this and setting it up. Um, but often, like the developer, it would be usually a junior developer who's being tasked with doing this and reading the documentation. They're not really interested in it, and they don't have like the context of why it's important for marketing.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like, because they're missing the context, it's maybe not set up properly. So
Yeah.
I kind of noticed this little niche, and then I started learning more about Google Tag Manager, why it's important, or at least how it can help.
True.
um, and so then I think, I started to get really into technical marketing, which I would say is still a niche, like not really well known, because often when you say technical marketing, people think that you mean you're marketing a technical product.
Yeah.
And I think it can mean that as well. But when I use technical marketing, I mean like the technical side of marketing. So anything to do with conversion tracking.
Right.
So yeah, to answer your question, yeah, I do still do like performance marketing management for some clients, but I've now specialized more into really like conversion tracking, audits, setup, and website data analytics. And I'm now kind of building my skills so that I can do not just website data analytics, but also analyze like their customer data. So yeah, I would say that now, well, it's funny you asked because I've just been writing the content for my website and like deciding the direction that I want to go in. And yeah, I think the main common like thing about my company is helping clients with their data. So and yeah, like specifically like marketing data analytics.
Correct, correct. Before, by the way, before we go to the next question, I would like to tell you that even I am a hospitality bachelor. By the way, I have completed my hotel management in one of the reputed institutes of India. I mean,
Wow.
yeah. Having said that, I mean, I can definitely understand because I started hotel management first. I completed that, and now, after that, after my graduation, I definitely, I mean, I straight away went into marketing and content and whatnot. So I can definitely kind of relate to what you're thinking, or
Yeah,
what you have
it's
felt.
nice. It is nice to meet like other people who like maybe have like a similar background. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So there is a lot of regions that you have been. Like, you just said Netherlands, then Germany, and then Belfast, and now you're in Turkey. So every region will, must have their own challenges and their own, learnings that you have must got. You must have got from these regions. So I'm interested to know them. I mean, if you could explain that a bit in terms of marketing, in terms of your business, how the journey was.
Yeah, sure. It's a great question. Yeah, interestingly, I can probably talk first about maybe the difference between like Northern Ireland and England, even though, they're very close to each other. Um, yeah, I one thing I noticed when I worked in London, and maybe it's also a little bit because it was quite corporate, but Northern Irish people tend to be quite self-deprecating, and I mean, I would say they have a very good sense of humor, but I think if you are not used to it, like sometimes people would be like, "Are you like?" They can't tell if I'm being serious or if I'm joking, or they're like, "Oh, you can't say that." And I'm like, yeah, it's a joke. Like but there actually are quite a lot of like colloquialisms and things. So yeah, that was funny a little bit in London just to yeah, I don't know. I would say British are kind of more polite and perhaps a little bit more easily offended,
Mm.
whereas Northern Irish people like they would not be easily offended, and they're just they're very like what I would say is that it doesn't matter who you are. Like if you start to think that you're better than someone else, they will like immediately pull you down. It doesn't matter what you do. Whereas in London, they would maybe be a little bit more, well, it's funny actually because I used to play five-a-side football on like Monday nights in London. But and obviously this is like a huge company, but like one of the people that played, he was like really high up. He was like one of the partners in this like FTSE 100 company, and like no, everyone would be like scared to tackle him and stuff. And like he was like super nice guy, but it did make me laugh. They're like, oh, he's here tonight. Yeah, whereas like yeah, Northern Irish people are just more down to earth. So that's maybe one difference. And then I could probably describe differences between the Netherlands and the UK, so and also other European countries. I mean, I think most people perhaps know this, but Dutch people are very direct. Um, so they will just say it like it is, and they are not awkward about having what perhaps British people would think is an awkward conversation. And what was quite funny slash frustrating was feedback that I had got in London was you're a bit too direct. You should try to be like a little bit less confrontational. But
Right.
in the Netherlands, my feedback was you need to be more direct. Like, so yeah. So I would say, yeah, Dutch people are very direct. I would say something else. They are very kind of non-hierarchical. It tends to be quite a flat structure. And whereas I think, yeah, in the UK, it would be more like, okay, the boss is going to make the decision. In the Netherlands, everyone has their say, and they have a lot of meetings to discuss things, and it's almost like everyone needs the opportunity to like say what they think, even if that, yeah. Whereas in the UK it would be more like, well, it's up to him. And yeah, that like yeah, sometimes I would say it was a bit tiring in the Netherlands, where it's like, I kind of think, okay, how many meetings do we need to have to, and does this person's opinion really matter? If yeah. um yeah, so yeah, mainly like directness and that, and
I mean, what
yeah.
we were. I just had one more podcast recently, and we were discussing the same topic. I mean, that guest also, was into different areas and all those things. So I asked her. I asked a question like, what is the difference between people's, the ability to take different things. For example, she said me that first world countries are more, more open towards adapting new technologies, and not just adopting it, they also want to develop it. But when it comes
Which,
to
which,
second,
which countries? Sorry.
the first world countries, I mean, the
First one.
whatever
Yeah.
the US is and
Mhm.
all those things.
Yeah.
So UK is also one of them, and
Mhm.
this the second world countries, or which is known as or third world countries also, which are also known as the non-alignment nations. So these countries are, first of all, scared to adopt the new technologies, and at the same time they don't want to even develop anything further beyond what has already been developed. So I mean, I would also like to know, did you find something similar kind of people nature everywhere that you go? Because you are also have been into first world countries, and now I think Turkey, we can say that it's more of a second world nation.
Um, yeah, I'd say it's a little bit hard for me to answer. I think mostly I've worked with, yeah, that's what's called like first world countries. Yeah, I've been based in the Netherlands, and I'm now based in Turkey. And I do work with a couple of Turkish people, and a couple of Turkish companies. But most of my clients are based either in like America, Australia, the Netherlands, the Benelux countries. So yeah, it's hard for me to say. Um, yeah.
Yeah, understood. I mean, it's like difficult because when you, most of the times as a content marketer and as the agency, I think we more are working with US companies because that's where most of the business is. But that's okay. I mean, what do you see as as a marketer now? Where the industry is, like sales and marketing both, I guess, and there is a lot of changes happening. The whole, there are landscapes shifting everywhere. AI is coming in. AI is impacting a lot of things. So, what do you think where the industry is right now when it comes to sales and marketing, and what are some of the trends that you're looking for? AI must be there on top, I guess, but I mean, just kind of explain to us like what do you think about the state of the industry now?
Sure. So, yeah, I think that what most companies need to focus on and bear in mind is like their engagement, their like brand perception, and just like, delivering clear value to the customer. I think that before, for example, all the iOS changes, which have like hugely disrupted the industry, it would be like easier to target people. And I think, I mean, if you think about it, mobile phones haven't even been around that long, or either I'm just I'm just thinking, I was about to say 20 years ago, and I'm thinking, wow, I'm remembering how old I am. But being able to have like being advertised to on your mobile phone, which everyone now has on them all the time. I mean, that's like a relatively new thing, really, right? Like before, yes, you're always bombarded with advertising, like on a street corner, just branding that you see on cars. But now it's like so invasive. It's like you can't even watch a YouTube video without seeing an advert. Um, and I think that the younger generation, because they've kind of grown up used to this, but they're more like or perhaps less susceptible to it. So there's something called, for example, banner blindness. So with a lot of like display marketing, they're saying like people just switch off because they know it's an ad. They don't even pay attention to it. So it's kind of like a waste of your money. And I think with the younger generation, they're so like aware of ads that they will never like, I think ads have become like less effective on that generation, and that brands are now focusing, on getting the right influencers who match their brand, making everything seem organic. And they're maybe trying to be organic, but like, maybe something like looks like it's gone viral, but actually behind the scenes, all the influencers are like talking to each other. You know what I mean? So, yeah. And I think also because people are now, well, I don't know honestly, because often I find I forget that I work in marketing, so I'm very aware of all these things. Whereas then you might have someone, they're like, oh no, I'm not really aware of that. But I think in general, yeah, people are more aware of ads. They'll switch off to them, and yeah, what that means is like people don't like being sold to. So, but they do follow people that they're interested in. And I think, now they're more also easy. They will see through things more easily. If you have someone just doing a paid promotion and they don't really care about the product, like that comes across. So, yeah. So one of the reasons I think is, because like younger generation, less susceptible to being like sold to, but also on top of that, the technology behind advertising in terms of being able to retarget people and, even target the right people in the beginning, can be, it's now more challenging. For example, retargeting people who have visited your website. Yeah, that's pretty easy for Android users, but for people who are on Apple phones, like you can't like really do that. So I think that the industry in general needs to, in a way, it's a good thing, because like then only brands that are good will probably stay the course. Because that's the other thing. There's like, there's almost no barrier to advertising on social media platforms. Whereas, for example, if you see an advert on TV, that they've gone through, it can't be like a scam company, right? Because they must have money and they must have got, gone through some like legal things to get onto TV. Whereas here you can see an ad and think, yeah, it could just be someone scamming. So, yeah, so I think companies really need to focus on like trust and brand like awareness. And yeah, separately, just also like focusing on data and like customer lifetime value, let's say, also because advertising, like the prices have gone up on a lot of platforms. And so, unless you have a product that people are like buying again, or, I've worked with like a lot of companies and startups where, they're losing money on every like acquired customer, which is fine if you know the data behind that, like X number of customers buy again within 3 months. And so the average lifetime value is this. And you know what I mean? So, I mean, I almost think that goes without saying, but like, yeah, marketing, I think you really also need to know your numbers, the behavior of your customers, and to be able to use, to be able to use your data and do it well. So like not just like number one, making sure everything is actually set up and being tracked correctly, rather than discovering, oh, this isn't being tracked, or you think this means this, but when you look into it, oh, actually there's a mistake in how it's set up and this data is like useless. So yeah, I think marketers should also, like anyone going into any kind of marketing, I think there should be a numbers course also, or like basic data analytics. Yeah. Yeah, I think those are like really valuable skills, like being able to analyze a set of data, to do like a regression analysis, just like to see any trends rather than just kind of like looking at numbers and kind of like half guessing. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and one more thing about this, I would like to take this question further. Uh, what do you think about the threat of AI to human jobs? And now that generative AI is coming up, and people are going crazy about ChatGPT and whatnot. So, what do you think? I mean, is those tools, do you think that they will be helpful for us going forward? Because I myself have used ChatGPT, and I can definitely tell you the efficiency is far more greater than what a human can
Mhm.
generate. And not even talking about productivity, the rate of content generation on ChatGPT, no one can beat it. But also that efficiency, that correctness, that accuracy in ChatGPT is at the world class level. So it's very difficult to kind of contest when it comes to human intelligence. So what do you think about ChatGPT and other tools which are kind of a threat to jobs, a lot of jobs?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I'm perhaps fortunate in that I genuinely love to learn. And I mean, it's almost a problem that I get bored very easily. So I'm always trying to learn and upskill myself. But like any time that if you're in your job, if you find yourself doing something that's at all repetitive or could be done by AI, then I think yes, you should. I'm not saying you should worry, but I think you should think about what makes your work different, more valuable, special. And I mean, I think that this is maybe just more of like a life philosophy, but like everyone has a unique skill set, right? To to be like brought together, and you should figure out what that is and focus on it. So for example, like I really enjoyed the technical side of things but also have the context of marketing, so then I thought, yeah, I can focus on this. And it is, sometimes I forget like how niche it is. Although like I'm part of a Slack community, and it was really nice. I found out about this Slack community and I joined it and I was like, oh my goodness, there's like loads of people like exactly like me. I'm not alone. So like it was like really nice, yeah, to discover that. Um but yeah, I mean, to answer your question, yes, is it a threat for jobs? I mean, yeah, probably. Like why would you not use Chat GPT for things if it's free? um yeah, at the same time, like with everything about AI, it needs to be tested, it needs to be checked, and more importantly, like if you can learn how to use AI, so if you can learn how to use the tools most efficiently. So, for example, I saw someone, like it was an ad I think came up, and it was like someone selling a course on, the 10 top tips to use Chat GPT more efficiently than anyone else, for
Mm.
example. So, I mean, I think you just need to look what are the opportunities here as well. Maybe you can teach people how to use Chat GPT to, get lots done. So, with AI, yes, will it take a lot of jobs? Yeah, but often they're jobs that like people don't want to do anyway. So why wouldn't we why wouldn't we automate things if we could? But you're always going to need people who understand the AI, who can maintain the AI, and who can use the tools. So yeah.
Right, right, of course. And whenever I speak about this to any of the experts, they always say that to kind of contest with AI, yeah, there's only one thing, that is upgrading yourself. You can't nowadays. You can't just be good at one thing. You have to be jack of all cards. That's the philosophy. So I mean, I mean, you're an example of how to upgrade yourself. Now I think you just told us that you did a restaurant manager job, and then you got into technicalities like the technical functions and coding and whatnot, and now as a marketing a marketing firm owner and all those things. So how do you upgrade yourself? I mean, what are some of the suggestions and tips that you can give us so that we can also bring that into our lives?
So, um, I'll probably be more abstract than like practical tips of like specific courses or places to look at.
Yeah, of
Um,
course.
but I would say, as this is very cheesy, but I think that you need to believe in yourself. So I didn't realize that this was perhaps a quality of mine until I spoke to other people and realized how, like, I had so many people that were like worried about, like, I can't do this, I'm not going to be able to do this, I'm terrible at my job, like having like imposter syndrome and stuff. And I was just like quite surprised, because even this one person I was speaking to, I was like, she went to Harvard. Like, she's like, always looked at her as like, very confident and like very clever, had good job in like an amazing company. I'm thinking, what? Um, so, um, yeah, I mean, personally, I found a niche that I was interested in. I focused on everything that I could do. I have to say, I was very fortunate that I had a company that did support me, to do the learning, to put my learning into practice. But even if I hadn't had that, I was always doing stuff on the side, like after work. Maybe something piqued my interest, and then I'm like, okay, I'm going to learn about that. For example, like when I learned SQL, actually someone in the company, he offered to teach a couple of people. And I saw that he was doing that. So I joined, and then I ended up just like, learning more about it. So I think always be open to like opportunities. And also, like depending on the company you work for, like just speak to other people. I think that's another thing that I do that I didn't realize was rare. That, like, for example, in the corporate environment, like I was speaking to the marketing team, I was asking how it worked, how they got the leads. I was speaking to the product manager because I was interested in what they were developing in the product and how it would impact how I could sell the product. But I found that, like, a lot of people were not really interested. So yeah, I think you need to be interested, maybe, and often through speaking with other people from different departments, from people who do like completely different things. I really enjoy that because I always learn about something I didn't even know existed. Um, and I find like a lot of I often ended up speaking to like developers and coders, and just they're most of them are like so helpful, and often you'll find someone who enjoys what they do and they actually enjoy explaining it. And that's like it's like a free lesson. I'm speaking to someone, they're explaining how it works, but I noticed that it's not like annoying for them. They're actually shocked that someone's asking them, and they're very happy to explain. So yeah, be collaborative, and often you just I often keep like or at times I have kept a list of stuff that I've done, and I've celebrated like very small wins, like maybe when I've like written my first bit of code or written a query that works. Like,
Mm.
you need to like celebrate every like tiny win, because that will keep you motivated, and all humans want to see is progress. So if you don't see any progress, you're going to get demoralized. But just like get really, I mean, maybe I'm too proud of myself, I'm like, oh, I've written like a line of code and it works. So yeah, that is one thing. And that I think really helps whenever you um sometimes I call it like having like a court case against yourself. So if you're ever thinking, I'm stupid, or I'm not going to be able to do this, like literally have a list of everything that you have done to remind yourself that no, actually you can. Because it honestly has happened to me quite often, because like, as you know, like running your own business, it can be a bit tricky, because especially if I have some like regular clients, but then a lot of it is project work, and like planning your roadmap and like trying to make sure you have enough work um, can be stressful at times, right? So there's been times I've maybe been overloaded, and I'm thinking, oh, I would love to have the time to do a course on this so that I can be better. But yeah, maybe this is another tip that often I've actually should be careful when I say this, but I've accepted work when I hadn't necessarily done it before, but because I was confident, and I always am confident that yes, I can do the work, because I know that if I can't do it right now, I will either find a consultant, I will learn, I will try it, and I'm often very honest with the client anyway. The client doesn't care as long as the work is done at the end of the day, and I find what counts for a lot is that people enjoy working with me, perhaps because I'm just very yeah, I guess honest, and I can communicate this, and I'm confident that I'll get the job done. And if I can't, or something comes up, I can refer them to someone else or something. But I think having those projects, I would say be careful with this, because sometimes I have become quite stressed because I'm like, oh, I really need to do this. But at the same time, that pressure of having to do something means that you will learn fast. And sometimes that's better, because I've also met people who are like, oh, I want to do 10 courses on this. And they're like forever learning about it, and they're too scared to take that step to actually do the work for someone. And honestly, whatever you learn in a course, like even I've done courses in Google Tag Manager, Google Analytics 4, but the most stuff that I have learned is through experience, having a problem and having to figure it out. And often it comes through like community boards like Stack Overflow, or asking, another developer who's maybe worked in that language before. So, a course can only teach you so much. There is nothing more valuable than actually doing the work. So
Yeah,
hopefully
yeah.
that helps.
Yeah, no, definitely, definitely. That is definitely helpful and insightful. So you have also worked as a content strategist and marketing strategist for various companies, Abby. So what are some of the things that you have in mind while developing a marketing strategy for a business? It could be any business, it could be in any industry, but I mean, of course, it will depend on what medium it is and what medium it is using to promote, that business and all those things. But what are some of the fundamental things you have in mind whenever you develop a strategy for a business?
Yeah. I mean, some of the basics, like, doing your research, like who is the target market,
Right.
what platforms are they on? You can usually find reports on that. What percentage of people are from like this demographic, on Pinterest or whatever. I would kind of do like the pros and cons of each kind of platform. It depends like what stage the business is at. Like sometimes, Facebook ads are maybe like a cheaper and faster, or maybe not cheaper, but a faster option to get results than like Google is like maybe more reliable in the long run, but like can take a while, can be quite expensive to get started on. So depending on the stage of the company, I can, recommend which platforms to perhaps use first. But in terms of like actual like content strategy and marketing strategy, I think that, they are all it's just about communication at the end of the day. It's about like what need are you fulfilling? Like what is your value proposition? Like what do you do? Why should someone use your product or service? And if that is not clear, like, you can't give up. And I've worked with a lot of startups, a lot of co-founders, and I think often they're so immersed in their product or service that they forget that like the average person on the street who sees something and has never heard of them before, they're not going to immediately, like, it needs to be so clear and obvious what you do. And that's a common mistake I think I see a lot of companies making, is that it's not, they're overcomplicating it, and it's not, it needs to be super clear in terms of communication. um and another thing I would do for like content strategy is just brainstorm and think of like, what are all of the questions that a potential customer might have?
Mm.
So it's what in sales you may call like objection handling. So, maybe why would someone not use your product? And like answer all these questions and also like be honest on your website. And I think that's actually a really good strategy, is like not just attracting the right customer, but repelling the wrong customers or the people who aren't, and just be honest on your website. And like, if you are a person that is looking for this kind of service, then get off our website because that's not what we do, right? Like I've seen companies do that quite effectively as well. And people then kind of respect that brand more, and they probably will come back to you at a later stage, potentially, if they're like, okay, well, this company is not for us right now, but maybe, at a different stage, we might fit into their target group. So, yeah.
Right. No, that's a good thing. I mean, good advice as well. So, I mean, now we are coming to an end of the podcast. So, what do you think the future holds for the sales and marketing industries from here on? And how do you see yourself contributing to it, Abby?
So, yeah, right now I'd say I'm probably contributing quite a lot on people's website data analytics because everyone's freaking out about Google Analytics 4. And if they
Right.
aren't freaking out about it, it's because they haven't looked at it properly. And once they do, they will freak out. So, yeah, for me, I think people are going to have to continue to become more technical, more clever, like really understand how to use their data to the best of their ability. And yeah, I'm supporting like a lot of companies with that. I think that regulations are probably going to get tighter. Like obviously we had the GDPR a few years ago. Now third party cookies are going away, and I think in the US it's a little bit behind, but I think they are also now catching up, because I always joke that like the US is like the Wild West, like no one cares about the privacy there. So like for now it doesn't matter. Whereas like, because I've got European clients as well, and they're all about like blocking the, having to accept the cookies or not collecting their data. So I think that all companies they're going to have to become a little bit more technical and yeah, data driven. And yeah, I think just learn how to use like AI, like keep ahead of things. I mean, one thing I think about, and it's something I'd like to learn more about actually, is like Web 3.0. So
Yeah.
like I know like personally a couple of people who do some work in that area, but at the same time I feel like they've been talking about it for a long time. Like they have been talking about it for almost 20 years, even since around 2006.
Mm.
I think, and I don't see it like suddenly taking over, or I don't think things are going to change massively anytime soon. But yeah, I think that is something to be aware of. Like if the metaverse, and when it does happen, like see what are the opportunities there. And I think that in terms of like AI and marketing, I think there are a lot of things regarding like I'm trying to remember the difference between virtual reality and virtual reality, and there's also like augmented reality. So for example, you can use that, like let's say I worked with a company, like a glasses company actually, and they had it where you could try on the glasses but from home, right, from your phone. So I think there are like things like that. Obviously it depends on your product or service, but if you're like an e-commerce and something like this, I think people, yeah, they really need to focus on the customer experience, because we're I mean, I'm not going to name any names, but like I have worked with people who are younger than me, and they will literally be 5 minutes walk from the supermarket, and they have ordered someone to deliver stuff to their home. And I'm thinking the supermarket is there, and they're like, yeah, but I can just do it on the app. Like I can
Mm.
just get, so um yeah, I'm just bringing that point up, in that like we driven live in a society where we can literally get like almost anything we want instantly. So if you have a poor customer experience, if you're not like on it in terms of like delivering things immediately, having a really good follow-up process, I think,
Yeah.
you may people are more impatient these days, right? Because we're used to getting whatever we want at whatever time we want. So
Right.
yeah.
It's interesting that you raised this incident that the people, I mean, younger generation don't want to go out. They are just ordering everything on their phone. In India, actually, have you been to India by any chance, anytime?
I have
Uh,
not yet, but members of my family have. So yeah, I should. I'm not that far away actually now that I'm in Turkey, so I should get there.
Absolutely. I mean, here in India, we use something called UPI. It is known as Unified Payment Interface.
Hmm.
So we can pay with the help of QR code, which will be there on any of the shops. If you go out, you just need to take your phone with you. You have to scan the QR code. It's already connected to their bank accounts with the help of a lot of schemes that the government introduced, and the payment will be going into your account directly. And it doesn't matter even if it is 1 rupee, it will go, and everything is free. Government is taking up the whole incentives and all not. So for all businesses, the transaction is completely free. So
Wow.
these technologies are coming up, and I'm not sure, but like in very the experts are saying that UPI can actually take over Swift, which is a payment interface all over the world. So that's how the technology has evolved so far.
Yeah, wow. Okay, I'm gonna look that up now. That's yeah, it's
Yeah,
interesting. Like, to be honest, even being in Turkey, like their banking system is quite advanced. Also more than like the UK, you can do things at a bank machine just with like a QR code.
yeah.
And also I don't know if you're familiar with the company called Get Here.
No.
Get here, because yeah, I see them everywhere in Turkey. But then, funnily enough, I was working with a UK client, and I haven't lived in the UK for, I don't know, more than 5 years or so. And they were doing a collaboration with Get Here, and I'm like, Get Here, but that's a Turkish company. I see them all the time here, so they're a bit like Deliveroo. But they're, yeah, also like a huge delivery company. And yeah, there's like anything you can get like on apps here.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
And one more thing is, India is the largest nation of mobile holders, by the way, in the world. And
okay.
here the ordering food and whatever you call, like, there are multiple apps, like there are like brand names which are very familiar to Indians. And in metro cities, for example, in Hyderabad, in Mumbai, all those metro cities, people are not even going out to take food and all. I mean, during the COVID times, the delivery was available, even though the whole world was under lockdown, and in the country also. But the delivery boys were going everywhere. They were distributing foods and everything. So that's how the technology has evolved these days. And yeah, and you said the right thing. I mean, upgrading yourself, and then kind of adapting these changes. I think adapting to these changes, I think that's the key going ahead. But
Yeah, I think
yeah,
it's really like, possibly COVID, but also maybe the advance of technology and the realization that, you don't need to commute to work. You can work actually whenever you want. Obviously, not everyone, but like a lot. These options are. I remember when digital nomad used to be like, oh, what is that? And, is it difficult? Oh, I could never do that or something. Whereas now it's like so easy, or it seems so easy. Um, and I think a lot of people are now thinking more like what I actually want out of life.
mm,
And because even for me, like the past year, yeah, I always worked a lot. I'd been a little bit of a workaholic, but genuinely in the last year, I was like, actually, I want to focus more on like extracurricular things outside of work. And I'm not like, I don't care about, I think me, because I have my own business, but before I would be like, oh, I want to take it to this level or something. But now I'm like, okay, I have like a comfortable income. I can have this lifestyle. I don't, what, like, is more to life. I'm discovering like other passions and things. And I think, more and more people are thinking like, what kind of life do I want to live, and how can work like fit into that, or how can I do something which, you know is that, yeah, there are benefits and not benefits. I would say the good thing is before is that, like, if you went to work, once you were out of work, you switched off because you didn't have email on your phone. No one was going to call you. Like, work was done and you left. And so mentally you could switch off.
Right.
So probably the only difficult thing of like let's say being a digital nomad is more like, okay, do you have the discipline to be able to switch off from work? Like, can you do that? And can you look after like your mental health and balance everything without having these like set boundaries? Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So one last thing, Abby, I think we have, covered at least, almost 1 hour now. So we saw a lot of news about the large earthquake that actually occurred in Turkey, and I think you were there at the time. So if you could tell us about that catastrophe also in some words, because here people were definitely praying for the whoever the victims were, and I
Mhm.
think the whole world was doing it. But at the same time, we would like to know the real world experiences if you have
Yeah,
some.
sure. So, yeah, so I was based in Istanbul, and the earthquake was more in the southern, like close to the border with Syria. So yeah, I did not like feel the earthquake or anything. Although actually, a few months prior, there had been an earthquake in Istanbul where I did like feel that the room was, shaking. But yeah, obviously, like very sad. Um, and yeah, there's kind of like mixed emotions here. I would say on the one side, I've seen what I liked was to see like the community spirit that people are really pulling together. You had like local restaurants where they would they're like receiving donations, like pick up points, like everyone is kind of doing something. And I even personally knew like some guys from my gym were like, oh yeah, we're going there, like literally like flew there with stuff and like supporting like the rescue efforts. So it was quite nice to see that. And I would say that Turkish people are quite good in that, they just get on with things, they just get on with life. Um, and yeah, I mean, it's honestly a little bit sad just because there's a lot of frustration because a lot of these buildings were not really earthquake proof, and like they knew an earthquake was going to happen at some point.
Mm.
So, there is a lot of frustration, a little bit, because perhaps things, could have. It's a bit of a catch-22. It's like, okay, the houses should have been to this standard, but then some people are not doing it to that standard because it was too expensive. And yeah, it's just, yeah, but yeah, I don't know. There'll be elections in a couple of weeks, actually. So this may also, contribute. I mean, the reaction to the earthquake and everything may have an impact on, like, what people are maybe going to vote in the elections. But yeah, a lot of people, unfortunately, have died as a result. And yeah, I hope people haven't forgotten about it. But yeah, it was interesting for me because I don't know if you're the same or not, but sometimes I can be a bit ignorant in that, like, okay, I've seen like the news story about a tsunami or something, but it's like so far away in a country I've never been to, and I'm a little bit like, yeah, it's sad, and to see like what you can do to help. Whereas this time it's like, oh, like I'm actually in this country. It's actually quite close by. And yeah, it was just kind of like a different realization of like, yeah, this is pretty close to me. And I think also because I'm then here with the people and with people who have like directly lost family members, um, it was a bit more like, um, I guess I would say makes almost the world feel smaller, or makes you feel like, oh yeah, actually we are kind of all in this together. Because I would say maybe where I grew up has less, like, doesn't really have any natural disasters. So, it's hard for me to kind of relate. Whereas being here, it's like, yeah, we do all kind of need to support each other. So I guess that's a positive thing.
Yeah, yeah, and again, I mean, I've read a lot of news that Turkey is quite earthquake prone that way. I mean, I would definitely, advise you to take care, whatever it
Yeah,
is.
yeah. There is due to be an earthquake in the next 7 years in Istanbul, and I can tell you definitely the house that I live in is not earthquake proof, and a lot of the houses there are not. So yeah, it's, to be honest, not a sensible place to stay for the long term.
Right, and you also, raised a point of politics, to like Turkish politics, world politics. I follow a few things, but I don't want to kind of bring that
Yes,
here.
same, same.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but but thanks for your time, Abby. I guess we had a good conversation about not just marketing. We actually heard some life lessons from you, and I hope the listeners also will be able to kind of get something insightful from this conversation. And I would love to invite you to other such conversation in future.
Yeah, I hope so. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it. It was really nice. So I'm really thankful. Yeah, appreciative that you thought of me. So thank you so much.
Thank you. So, Abby, we'll close here. How was it by the way, for you?
Yeah, yeah, it was good. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
it's not that often actually. I guess I don't really like talk about myself that much. So, do you know what I mean? Like normally you're busy, you're working, no one's really interested in what you do. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
no, that's what this podcast is all about. I'm bringing, normal people like you and me here, and
Mhm.
we talk about what, because like the very established people, they already have proved themselves. We prove ourselves
Yeah.
every day, and no
Yeah.
one cares about it.
You know, it's funny. I genuinely had thought of doing something like this a while ago. I remember thinking, like, yeah, there's always podcasts of famous people, but like sometimes, like lesser, like there's even like people on my street, who have a really interesting life story, and you will never know, right? So
Right.
yeah, I always think it's like interesting to speak to.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I get overwhelmed when you just think like every single person has had like a different life experience. And
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.